Back then, if you wanted to go from point A to point B, you needed to travel the equivalent distance of Mount Everest without taking a break. And the sun was bigger than it used to be, so you had to know how to swim since there's a high chance that the ice melted. Or you can gather some pigeons, tie them with rope, and let the wind take you to your course. Don't believe me? Why don't you ask your parents? Anywho, here are forgotten modes of transportation. Let's start with the velocipede, also known as the bone shaker. Now, if you think this is one of those dinosaurs our cavemen ancestors used to ride to go from one place to another, or a heavy metal band that uses bones for instrument, well, you're a bit close, but certainly not right. Back in 1817, a German man named Carl von Drey invented a strange device. It had two wheels, no pedals, and was powered by your feet. He called it the loft machine or running machine. Basically, a wooden bike for people who hated walking but had no choice since they had legs. Then in the 1860s, French blacksmith Pierre Micon and his son Ernest took the idea and added pedals to the front wheel. You know what, Dad? Why not add some pedals on the front wheel? You know what, son? Why don't you shut up? Now it was self-propelled, and then they decided to call it a velocipede for some reason. It became popular in France, then spread to the United States. People loved it because it was new, fast, and made you look kind of cool, unless you fell, which was often. The velocipede had a wooden frame with iron tires. This meant it was heavy, loud, and about as smooth as riding a shopping cart down the stairs. People nicknamed it the bone shaker because it shook your whole skeleton. Despite that, it was used for recreation, racing, and short travel. By the 1870s, the bone shaker had competition. The penny farthing, with its giant front wheel, became the next big thing. It was faster and slightly less bumpy. Also, the Franco-Prussian War broke out and factories focused on weapons instead of bicycles. Bone shakers were hard to ride, made of heavy materials, and not exactly spine-friendly. Riders often fell or crashed, which was kind of expected since balancing wheels weren't even a thing back then. Helmets? Psh! This is the 1800s. If you broke your skull, your parents would be like, what did we learn? So if you wanted excitement and possible dental surgery, this was your ride. Still, it helped start the bicycle revolution, proving humans will strap themselves to anything with wheels and hope for the best. While the bone shaker didn't last forever, it paved the way for modern cycling. Steam-powered road carriages. In 1769, a French military engineer named Nicolas Joseph Cugnot built the first steam-powered road carriage. He wanted to help move heavy cannons without needing horses, so he made a three-wheeled vehicle with a giant steam boiler. It could go 2.5 miles per hour, which was basically a fast walk. After Cugnot's invention, other inventors in the early 1800s tried improving the idea. British engineers like Richard Trevithick built steam carriages that actually carried people. By the 1830s, companies were offering steam coach services in places like London. Riders were amazed that you could travel without a horse. Meanwhile, horses were probably relieved, but also offended. Steam carriages worked by burning coal or wood to heat water in a boiler. The steam pushed pistons, which turned the wheels. These things were loud, heavy, and looked like rolling teapots. Top speed? Around 15 miles per hour, unless something exploded. Some could carry 8 to 12 passengers, but comfort was not included. And let's not forget the drivers, who had to manage heat, pressure, steering, and not dying, all at once. Steam carriages had one big problem: roads. Most roads were built for hooves. In 1865, Britain passed the Red Flag Act, which forced someone to walk in front of every steam carriage waving a red flag. That kind of killed the whole fast travel vibe. Plus, trains came along and did everything better: faster, smoother, and without random explosions. Maintenance was a nightmare, fuel was expensive, and the general public wasn't a fan of machines that spit fire. So the steam carriage era slowly rolled to a stop, but without it, we might still be riding donkeys to work. Or even worse, walking. So yes, steam carriages were kind of impractical, but they set the stage for actual cars. Well, since you're still here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps support the channel and lets me keep making more videos for you. Thanks. Subscribe. The Autorailer. The Autorailer was an early attempt at combining two transportation modes, which were cars and trains, into one. It was invented in the early 20th century, specifically in the 1910s. The main idea was simple: a vehicle that could drive on regular roads and then transition onto railway tracks to continue traveling. The most famous version was designed by Charles Wilson, an American engineer. He believed in the concept of combining the flexibility of a car with the speed of a train. The idea became popular in some places, especially in the US. During the early 1900s, the promise of a dual-purpose vehicle was appealing for regions where road and rail networks were separate. Instead of requiring a completely separate vehicle for each transportation method, the autorailer offered the possibility to easily switch between them. It was used in some rural and less connected areas where railroads might not always be accessible. These vehicles could save time and be more efficient. In use, the autorailer had a special set of wheels that could allow it to grip the rails and move like a train once it was on track. These wheels could retract, allowing the vehicle to travel like a normal car on regular roads. The autorailer was also designed to be fast, with the ability to reach speeds up to 50 miles per hour, which was pretty impressive for the time. However, the autorailer was eventually phased out due to a combination of factors. The technology was too ahead of its time, and the idea never fully caught on. Maintenance was expensive, and the vehicles were hard to manage due to their dual functionality. Additionally, improvements in road infrastructure and rail systems made it unnecessary to use a hybrid vehicle. The autorailer faded into obscurity, but it remains a fascinating footnote in transportation history. Basically, the people said, why need a car with trains and attached to railroad tracks? I don't know. Zeppelins. Rigged airships, commonly known as Zeppelins, were invented by a German count named Ferdinand von Zeppelin in 1899. He founded a company that would go on to make these massive flying machines. He wasn't exactly looking to invent the next cool thing for air travel. Instead, he was aiming to make a safer, more efficient method of travel through the sky, particularly for military purposes. While the Wright brothers were busy figuring out how to get a plane off the ground, Zeppelin was thinking, you know what? Let's build a giant floating cigar. And so the Zeppelin was born. With its first successful flight in 1900, Zeppelins became popular mainly because they offered something no other air vehicle could: huge cargo and passenger capacity. Imagine being able to travel across the ocean in style. People loved the idea, and the Zeppelins were used for everything from passenger transport to military reconnaissance. They even held record-breaking flights like the LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin, which circled the globe in 1929. The hype reached its peak during the early 1900s. It was like the jet of its time, only with less speed and more taking the scenic route vibes. The Zeppelins were also equipped with weapons, but in peacetime, they were primarily used for air travel, mail delivery, and even advertising. Zeppelins began to fall out of favor for several reasons. The main one? Explosions. The Hindenburg disaster of 1937, which saw a Zeppelin catch fire and crash, was a major blow to airships' reputation. The hydrogen used to keep the airships buoyant was highly flammable, making them a ticking time bomb every time it took off. Plus, airplanes were getting faster and more reliable, making Zeppelins seem old-fashioned and dangerous by comparison. After World War II, airships were mostly phased out in favor of airplanes, which offered quicker travel and better safety. Despite their early promise, Zeppelins just couldn't keep up with the technological advances in aviation. Rocket mail, my personal favorite, because rocket mail is exactly what it sounds like. While it may sound like something from a science fiction movie, it was actually tried out in the early 20th century. The idea was first seriously explored by a German engineer named Georg von Tiesenhausen, who proposed the use of rockets to carry mail in the 1920s. However, rocket mail is most famously associated with the work of the British inventor Sir George Cayley. He is known for experimenting with early forms of rocket mail in the 19th century. Despite the novelty of the idea, it didn't become widespread until much later, especially during the World War II era. The idea of rocket mail garnered attention in the early 1900s, when countries began experimenting with sending letters and parcels via rocket-powered devices. The concept was considered especially useful in remote or hard-to-reach areas. For example, in 1931, the first successful rocket mail launch took place in India, where rockets were used to deliver mail across rivers. In the 1940s, both the United States and Germany experimented with the use of rockets to transport mail in times of war. It became somewhat of a novelty too, with people sending letters via rockets just for fun. Can you imagine getting a letter shot through the air like it's trying to escape the laws of physics? Yeah, that's why rocket mail is my favorite. Rocket mail was ultimately phased out because, as you might expect, it was inefficient and not exactly reliable. Rockets aren't known for their ability to deliver mail to the right address, especially when they often miss their targets. And as you know, launching a rocket isn't cheap, add in the fact that it was mostly impractical. And it's easy to see why traditional methods of mail delivery, like airplanes and trucks, won in the end. There were also safety concerns. Rockets carrying mail could easily go off course or even explode, which was a significant deterrent. After a few decades of experimentation, rocket mail became obscure and went the way of many strange ideas, out of use, but never quite forgotten. Which of these forgotten modes of transportation you like best? Comment down below, leave a like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. Stay stable. The most infamous knights in history. Let's start with Hugh Deacy. Hugh Deacy was an English knight in the 1100s who became infamous for his extreme violence and betrayal in Ireland. King Henry II, who was his current lord at the time, gave him land in Meath in 1172. But de Lacy didn't want to rule, even though he was technically a lord. Instead, he wanted to do other stuff. Not good stuff, I assure you. His first major crime happened when an Irish leader named Tigernán invited him to peace talks at the Abbey of St. Thomas the Martyr. Instead of negotiating, which you are supposed to do when you are invited to negotiate, de Lacy decided to kill Tigernán and 150 unarmed Irish nobles. Then, if taking their lives wasn't bad enough, he stuck their heads on spikes to scare others into obeying him. His cruelty was planned to create fear, and if you think that's messed up, wait till you hear the next things he did. He built castles out of whim, not for protection, but to torture prisoners, hanging their bodies on the walls to rot. He burned hundreds of Irish people alive in a church at Slane, calling their screams noise from sinners. And if that still doesn't convince you, well, his worst act was a bit more personal. He married an Irish princess named Rose to gain power and a foothold towards the Irish, who he then strangled with his own hands in 1180 after she had his son. He didn't want the boy to have Irish heritage, saying he didn't need barbarian blood. The Irish hated him so much they nicknamed him the Devil's Taxman, which was oddly fitting. His brutal reign ended in 1186 when an Irish worker pretending to be loyal attacked him with an axe while he was building another castle. De Lacy's body was left for wild dogs to eat, which I guess was a fitting end for a man who destroyed villages, killed innocent people, and stole land to feed his greed. His actions left Meath in chaos for years and showed how English rulers used extreme violence to control Ireland. Gerard Deritaphor. Gerard Deritaphor was the leader of the Knights Templar from 1184 to 1189, and his terrible choices and pride caused huge problems for Christians in the Holy Land. He started as a knight with no land. He was furious after a ruler named Raymond III of Tripoli broke a promise to give him territory. Instead of focusing on the Templars' job, which is protecting pilgrims and fighting for God, Deritaphor used his power to get revenge. His worst mistake happened at the Battle of Cresson at 1187. Angry at Raymond, he attacked 7,000 Muslim soldiers with just 140 knights, even though he knew they'd lose. Almost all of his men died, not surprisingly, but Deritaphor escaped. Things got even worse at the Battle of Haddon. On July 1187, Deritaphor convinced King Guy of Jerusalem to march the army into a desert with no water during the hottest time of the year. Muslim leader Saladin surrounded them, burned plants to choke them with smoke, and destroyed the Christian army. Over 20,000 soldiers were killed or captured. Jerusalem fell to Muslims soon after, and the Christians lost their holiest relic, the true cross. Deritaphor was captured, but was soon released when his friends paid money to free him, while his men were being beheaded by Saladin. Now, if you were at the lowest point of your career, I guess that you would be guilty. and wish that you'd done better with your time. Be good and all that Samaritan stuff. Well, not Deritaphor. Instead of admitting his mistakes, Deritaphor stole gold from pilgrims to pay for more failed battles. He died in 1189 during a siege, when a giant stone from a catapult crushed him. Talk about a crushing end. Conrad von Tannenberg. Conrad von Tannenberg was a brutal Teutonic knight in the 14th century who spread fear across Prussia and Lithuania during the Northern Crusades. Known as the Wolf of Christ, he used religion as an excuse for extreme cruelty. His reign of terror began in 1377 with the massacre of Medininkai, where he tricked Lithuanian nobles into peace talks under a white flag of truce. Once they were disarmed, he ordered his men to slit their throats and dump their bodies into a river, claiming their pagan blood would make Christian soil stronger. Tannenberg's campaigns were filled with horrors. Villages that refused to convert to Christianity were burned to the ground. Children were stabbed on spikes to scare rebels, and prisoners were burned alive as gifts to God. He even nailed the skinned bodies of Lithuanian elders to church doors to frighten people into obeying him. His cruelest idea was the iron harvest, forcing converted Prussians to kill their own family members or be burned alive. He bragged about killing 2,000 people by 1382, keeping a list of his victims. But his arrogance led to his downfall. In 1390, while attacking a neighboring land, he ignored warnings of a Lithuanian counterattack. Too obsessed with destroying the city, trapped in a burning siege tower, he begged for mercy. But the Lithuanian rebels knew better. They dragged him into the forest, skinned him alive, and cut him into pieces. His head was put on a spear as a symbol of resistance. The Teutonic Order tried to erase him from history, but Baltic folklore remembered him as Belnio Artojas, the Devil's Plowman, a monster who turned holy war into pure evil. Tannenberg's legacy shows how even religious missions can become excuses for cruelty, which, thank God, he ended the way he did. Quick disclaimer, the last one is so bad that I refuse to draw the things he has done. You can do a quick fact check on him. But I recommend to be prepared because it is disgustingly creepy. Gilderay. Gilderay was a 15th century French nobleman and war hero who fought alongside Joan of Arc. But his legacy is stained by unimaginable crimes. After John's execution in 1431, he became obsessed with dark magic and spent his fortune on occult rituals. Between 1432 and 1440, he lured hundreds of peasant children, mostly boys aged 6 to 18, to his castles with promises of works or gifts, then tortured and murdered them in horrific ways. Witnesses said he hung children alive on hooks, cut them apart for fun, and forced them to perform before beheading them. He kept their heads in jars ranked by beauty, and used their bloods in rituals to summon demons, hoping to regain his lost wealth. With the help of a dark magic expert, he sacrificed victims in secret rooms lit by candles made from human fat. His servants helped hide bodies in moats or burned them in furnaces. Gilderay's crimes were exposed in 1440 after he kidnapped a priest during an argument, leading authorities to search his castles. They found child remains and occult objects at his trial. Survivors described his cruelty with utmost horrifying degrees. Under threat of torture, he confessed to the killings but blamed demons for his actions. He was hanged and burned in 1440, his castles destroyed, and his name erased from history. Was he a psychopath, driven mad by war, or a fanatic obsessed with magic? Whatever the reason, his crimes show how medieval nobles could abuse their power without punishment. Survivors called him Bluebeard, a nickname later used in fairy tales for monsters. Gilderay's story is a terrifying reminder of how evil can grow when no one stops it. Have I changed your opinions about knights? Comment down below and see you on the next one. Stay stable. Today's educational program is about World War II's deadliest booby traps. Starting with the Bouncing Betty. The Bouncing Betty, also called the S-mine, was a German anti-personnel landmine widely used during World War II. It was designed to injure or kill enemy infantry with a devastating airburst explosion. The mine consisted of a cylindrical metal casing filled with steel ball bearings and high explosives. It was activated by pressure, causing a small charge to propel the mine about 3 feet into the air. Once airborne, a secondary charge detonated, which gives soldiers enough time to picture their fondest memories at home before being blasted by shrapnel in all directions. The blast ranges extended up to 15 meters, with deadly fragments traveling even farther. German forces placed these mines in strategic locations such as roads, forests, and defensive perimeters. They were highly effective at slowing enemy advances and disrupting troop movements. Soldiers feared them because they could cause severe injuries like death, or even worse than death. Shrapnel caused amputations. The psychological impact forced armies to adopt cautious movements and mine-clearing tactics. Disarming it was also as dangerous, as some were equipped with anti-handling devices, meaning some would just detonate if you gave it just enough reason. Countermeasures included probing the ground with bayonets, using mine detectors, and deploying specialized engineers. Armored vehicles could also detonate them safely, though this was not always reliable. The bouncing Betty's efficiency made it one of the most feared weapons in the battlefield. Even those who survived often suffered from lifelong disabilities due to the mine's devastating effects, which led to infantry paranoia and slowing down advances. Booby trap bodies. Booby trap bodies were a deadly tactic used by German forces during World War II, designed to kill or injure enemy soldiers attempting to recover fallen comrades or inspect dead bodies. The Germans often rigged corpses with hidden explosives that would detonate when moved, exploiting the natural instinct of soldiers to help wounded or fallen allies. Common mechanisms included pressure triggers, tripwires, or time delay fuses. Sometimes, grenades were placed on their bodies with their pins removed, held in place only by the corpse's weight. Lifting the body would release the grenade, triggering an explosion. Other setups involve attaching explosives to bandages, weapons, or personal belongings. German engineers often used captured Allied uniforms or equipment to make the traps more convincing. They were also found in battlefields, abandoned encampments, and even civilian areas, causing significant casualties among unsuspecting soldiers. Medical personnel were highly targeted, as they were often the first to approach wounded or dead bodies. This tactic forced soldiers to become more cautious, slowing rescue and recovery efforts. Specialized bomb disposal units were tasked with clearing suspected traps, but the process was time-consuming and dangerous. The psychological impact was so severe that it made soldiers hesitate to assist fallen comrades. "Sir, we found bodies inside that house, sir." "Okay, good. Go and recover them now." "Did you check if they were booby-trapped?" Uh, no. Butterfly bomb. The butterfly bomb, officially known as, excuse me if I mispronounce this, the Spring Bomb Dickwendig 2kg, or the SD-2 for short, was a German submunition used during World War II. It was an anti-personnel and area denial weapon designed to incapacitate enemy troops and disrupt operations. The bomb had a cylindrical body with two thin metal wings that unfolded when deployed, causing it to spin as it fell, ensuring an unpredictable trajectory. The SD-2 was typically dispersed in large numbers from containers released by aircraft, with each container carrying dozens of these small bombs, blanketing wide areas with explosive hazards. The butterfly bomb was filled with a variety of fuses, including impact, time delay, and anti-handling mechanisms. Some detonated on impact, while others remained armed as booby traps that can explode at any given time, making clearance operations extremely dangerous. "Yup, that one's gonna explode. That won't. Oh, and that one will take a little while before it does." "How do you know which ones are gonna explode?" "I don't." "What? What do you mean, what? I mean, why do you always say explode this, explode that, if you don't even know which one's gonna explode?" "Dude, I'm your imagination. You just got shell shock from all those bombs." "What?" "You better move out of there, buddy." The bombs were particularly effective against infantry. causing widespread casualties and psychological terror. Civilians were also affected, as unexploded submunitions remained hidden in urban areas. Many British cities, including Grimsby and Hull, were heavily targeted with these weapons. Bomb disposal units faced significant challenges due to the bomb's sensitive fuses, as attempts to move or disarm them often resulted in explosions. Their use led to the development of improved disposal techniques and safety protocols. Its lethal design and unpredictable nature made it one of the most feared aerial weapons deployed by German forces. Even after the war, unexploded SD-2 submunitions posed a danger up till this day, requiring careful removal by ordnance experts. Tellermine with anti-handling devices. The Tellermine was a German anti-tank mine used during World War II, often equipped with anti-handling devices to prevent disarmament. Its design featured a circular metal casing filled with high explosives, usually TNT. The main activation mechanism was a pressure plate on top, designed to detonate when a heavy vehicle applied sufficient weight. Now you must be thinking, why not stick some bayonets into the ground to make sure there are no mines? Well, to counter enemy mine clearance efforts, German engineers incorporated anti-handling devices into some Tellermine models. These additional mechanisms could trigger detonation if the mine was lifted, tilted, or tampered with. Some designs used pull-release fuses, while others had secondary detonators linked to tripwires. Tellermines were deployed in defensive positions, roads, and open fields to slow enemy armor advances. Their high explosive charge could disable or destroy tanks, trucks, and other vehicles. Infantry were also at risk, as some mines were modified to trigger under lighter weights. The psychological impact of anti-handling devices was significant, making engineers hesitant to clear suspected minefields. Bomb disposal teams developed specialized techniques to neutralize them, but the risk remained high. The Tellermine's rugged design allowed it to function in various environments, as long as the conditions for hiding them were met. Its widespread use across battlefields caused heavy equipment losses for the Allies. Even after the battles ended, unexploded mines remained a danger. Some Tellermines were linked together with detonation cords, creating deadly chain reactions that can still explode, even today. Last but not least, chocolate bar bombs. Chocolate bar bombs were an alleged assassination weapon developed by Nazi Germany during World War II, designed to target high-ranking Allied officials. The explosive device was concealed within a realistic-looking chocolate bar, which was wrapped in authentic brand-style packaging to avoid suspicion. When a person attempted to break a piece, a hidden detonation mechanism was triggered, activating a delayed fuse. This delay allowed the bomb to explode moments later, increasing the chances of injuring or killing the victim. The explosive was compact but powerful enough to cause serious injuries or death within close proximity. Reports suggest that British intelligence agents discovered the plot before any successful detonation occurred. The Secret Service allegedly intercepted intelligence detailing the plan, preventing the devices from reaching their intended targets. Despite this, the existence of chocolate bar bombs contributed to heightened security measures among Allied leaders. The concept demonstrated Nazi Germany's willingness to employ deception and disguise in warfare, using seemingly harmless objects as deadly weapons, though there is no confirmed instance of these bombs being deployed effectively. Hey, you like a chocolate bar? Don't mind if I do. The mesentery. The mesentery, which rhymes with dysentery, is an organ that, funnily enough, has close relations with its fellow rhyming word. Once dismissed as a mere connective tissue, it's now recognized as a continuous organ that anchors the intestines to the abdominal wall. It contains blood vessels, lymphatics, and nerves that supply the gut, ensuring proper digestion and nutrient absorption, which you need if you want to reach your dream body. Without it, the intestines could twist. Fun fact, there's a word made for such a threatening occasion: volvulus, which cuts off blood flow and leads to tissue death, which results in a life-threatening emergency. The mesentery also plays a role in immune defense by housing lymph nodes that filter harmful pathogens. Its structural support is crucial for preventing intestinal collapse and maintaining gut motility, making it indispensable for survival. In other words, it's like the glue of your intestines that is needed to stay attached to your body. Without it, well, your intestines will be called outtestines since it's not gonna stay inside you. That's why it's out instead of, okay, moving on. The lymphatic system. No, this is not another name for a universe 8 quintillion light years away. Discovered in 2012, the lymphatic system is the brain's waste clearance network, functioning like a sewer system during sleep. It washes out toxic proteins, and one of them is called beta amyloid, which is heavily linked to Alzheimer's, which is then flushed out via the cerebrospinal fluid. Without this system, metabolic waste would accumulate, leading to neurodegeneration, cognitive decline, and potentially fatal brain disorders. The lymphatic system is most active during deep sleep, emphasizing the importance of rest for brain health. If impaired, toxins build up, increasing the risk of dementia and other neurological diseases, proving its role in long-term survival. To simplify it, the brain's own personal toilet, but it only uses it to its full potential when you sleep. Can you imagine what's going to happen if you don't make the John on time? Well, since you're still here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps support the channel and lets me keep making more videos for you. Thanks. Subscribe. The interstitium. Now, not technically an organ yet, but scientists recently proposed the interstitium as a potential organ. The interstitium, which sounds like a coalition of alien organizations, is a vast network of fluid-filled compartments beneath the skin and around organs. It acts as a shock absorber, protecting tissues from damage, and facilitates fluid and nutrient transport. The interstitium plays a role in cancer spread. I know, bummer, but let me finish. It allows malignant cells to move through the body, but it's not all bad, since it contributes to lymph production, aiding immune responses. If this system fails, fluid balance is disrupted, leading to swelling, otherwise known as edema, or impaired waste removal, which can be life-threatening in severe cases. The thymus. The thymus, located behind the sternum, is crucial for immune function, especially in early life. It produces and trains T cells, white blood cells that identify and destroy infections. Without a functional thymus, the body cannot fight viruses, bacteria, or cancer cells effectively, leading to severe immunodeficiency. Now, Japan has made the perfect representation of what a T cell, the product of a thymus, look like. Here. So make sure you eat your veggies. Though it shrinks with age, its role in establishing immune memory is irreplaceable. People without a thymus, due to surgery or congenital defects, require lifelong medical support to avoid fatal infections, proving its vital role in survival. The reticular activating system. Yes, it sounds just like how it works. The RAS, a neural network in the brainstem, regulates consciousness, alertness, and sleep-wake cycles. It filters sensory input, ensuring we respond to critical threats, like a growling predator or a speeding car. Damage to the RAS can cause coma or persistent vegetative states, leaving the body unable to react to danger. By maintaining wakefulness and selective attention, this system prevents fatal accidents and ensures survival in hazardous environments. Without it, basic life-sustaining functions like breathing and arousal would fail. Now, to give you guys an example, without the RAS, being with your girlfriend will suck, as she will A. Question your manliness, or B. Exist. I don't know, pick your poison. The pericardium. The pericardium, which sounds like a modern instrument that plays all your regrets in life, is a double-layered sac enclosing the heart, filled with lubricating fluid to prevent friction during beats. It also acts as a barrier against infections and keeps the heart properly positioned. If the pericardium becomes inflamed, pericarditis occurs, or on the offset that it fills with fluid, cardiac tamponade becomes its next problem. It can compress the heart, leading to fatal circulatory collapse. Its role in protecting the heart from trauma and infection makes it an unsung hero in cardiovascular survival. The carotid body. These tiny chemoreceptors near the carotid artery detect oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH levels in the blood. If oxygen counts drop, examples are during choking or at high altitudes, they trigger rapid breathing and increased heart rate to restore balance. Without this reflex, hypoxia, or for asthmatics like me, oxygen deprivation, would cause organ failure, brain damage, or death within minutes. The carotid body's ability to sense and respond to oxygen changes is critical for surviving suffocation, drowning, or respiratory diseases. Now you must manually breathe. Good. Yeah, you like that? That's what this organ does if you forget your intake of oxygen. Remember to breathe. Like manually or something, I don't know. Last but not least, Kupffer cells. Located in the liver, Kupffer cells are specialized macrophages that engulf bacteria, toxins, and dead red blood cells. They prevent septic shock by filtering pathogens from the bloodstream before they spread. If these cells fail, like for example in liver disease, toxins accumulate, leading to systemic infections, multi-organ failure, and death. Their role as the liver's security guards make them essential for detoxification and immune defense. Now that's the last one. There's no joke for that. So yeah, stay stable and see you on the next one.